You might think that you're all in on quitting porn, but are you? Are you really? Like when things get uncomfortable, when the urges, the stress, and that intense desire to escape hit you late at night, are you confident that you will stay the path? Or is there a lingering doubt that you'll just pull the plug and relapse, just like how you have so many times in the past? This is the situation that many guys find themselves stuck in. They think they are totally committed to getting clean, but then their track record shows a different story. The point of this video is to give you an exercise to eliminate the hidden saboteur in your mind, the little part of you that will back out in moments of weakness. We are going to root out that lack of conviction so that you can face the process of quitting porn with total commitment. The big problem that we need to solve is that while your rational mind might be bought into getting clean, the emotional mind still has one foot out the door. Your rational mind sees porn for what it is, a destructive force that's holding you back, but your emotional mind sees it as an escape valve for coping with the challenges of life and is very hesitant to lose that safety net. So when things get hard, when the discomfort rises above a certain threshold, this emotional aspect just hits the eject button and you relapse on autopilot. Basically, in those moments, your emotional mind turns to your rational self and says, hey man, I get that you'd like to quit porn, but I did not sign up to deal with all of this discomfort. So I'm just going to have to overrule you here and use some porn. So the goal here is to get this emotional part of ourselves on board from the get-go. So it can't say, hey, I didn't sign up for this, all right? Like logic and willpower is not enough to get clean. There needs to be an authentic emotional will to achieve this transformation. And without this emotional alignment, you'll keep looping through the same cycle of willpower, relapse, and guilt over and over and over again. So to fix this, we need to clear up an incredibly devious little pattern of self-deception that many guys trap themselves in. The thing that makes this self-deception so pernicious is that it actually comes from a place of good intentions. So what is this lie that's likely tripping you up with getting clean and probably blocking you from making progress in other areas of your life? Well, it's the lie of, I have to, okay? We tell ourselves we have to quit porn. We tell ourselves that there is no choice. We must do this thing because it's right, because it's logical, because it will bring big benefits, because it'll make God happy, okay? And sure, this have-to mentality might work for a short burst of discipline. It might get you through a cold shower, a long run, or a focused work session. But for long-term change, like quitting porn, this approach fails miserably. Why? Well, because the belief that you have to quit porn is a friggin' lie, okay? You don't have to do anything. You can keep using porn for the rest of your life if you want to, okay? And this point, at first, might sound kind of stupid to bring up, but it's actually incredibly important because anything that is built on a lie is unstable. When you tell yourself, I have to quit, what you're really doing is repressing your emotions. You're forcing them to submit to logical authority. You're making them a second-class citizen in your psyche rather than honoring them as the beating heart at the core of your very being. And don't get me wrong, okay? It makes sense why guys will do this. After years of an addiction, you probably just don't trust your emotions. So you try to create a shortcut where they don't get a say in things, okay? You just feel like you need to lock them up for big decisions. Otherwise, they will run rampant and cause you to do stupid stuff. But trying to get anything done without emotional support tends to be just as disastrous. Now, you might counter this line of thinking with saying, well, living from pure emotional impulse is a recipe for disaster. Of course it is, okay? But that's not what I'm advocating for, okay? We need balance between the logical and emotional. We need both of them. And saying that you have to quit porn, that's just all logical, okay? And it just relegates the emotional to a second place position, if it gives it a position at all. Because here's the tricky thing about emotions, all right? They don't just disappear because you ignore them. You push them down, they just build pressure, and eventually they explode in the form of an uncontrollable relapse. So if you want to be 100% bought in with both emotion and intellect on board, you need to ultimately quit porn from a place where you holistically want to quit porn when all things are considered. Not because you should to, or you have to, it's because you want to. That means that your logical mind and your emotional mind have to be on the same team. Your logic doesn't dominate your emotions. It empowers them when they work together properly. It gives them truth so that they can want the real things that you want, not some kind of half-formed perspective. And the way that we're going to pull this off is by getting brutally honest about the real deal on the table when it comes to quitting porn, which is exactly what the main exercise in this lesson is all about. So here's how it works, all right? First, you need to use your logical mind to lay out the true costs and benefits of both using porn and quitting porn, and you got to put it all in broad daylight. We want it all spelled out and nothing hidden in the fine print just to be glossed over, only to blindside you later. And then once the full picture is on the table, you choose whichever path you actually want. You choose it from the heart. You don't just should yourself from your head. Now, this might sound like a bit of a silly exercise, thinking that choosing to quit is an obvious foregone conclusion. However, it's that very assumption that I'm going to ask you to suspend while you do this exercise. Get curious here. Do you actually want to quit porn when all things are considered? Well, the only way to find out is if you actually consider all the things and see what your heart tells you when it's free from any pushing and prodding from the logical mind. So let's start walking through each of these pieces now. We'll kick this off by looking at the costs of using porn, all right? And so what I want you to do here is close your eyes for a second. And I want you to imagine where porn takes you over the next few years if nothing changes and you keep using it. So we'll break this down so you can really visualize it. We'll start with the brain changes. Your attention span, it's going to stay the same or even degrade further. Your ability to focus is less than what you want, okay? You open up a tab to work, but your brain drifts. You feel foggy, distracted, restless. Your energy is lower and your motivation is too. Productivity tends to feel like a struggle, and healthy pleasures don't seem enjoyable. The drive that once pushed you forward now gets siphoned into pixels, robbing you of time and progress. On the sexuality side, your relationship to women is likely messed up. Maybe you can't help ogling every woman around you. Maybe every pretty woman makes you feel insecure and lacking. Heck, maybe you're so desensitized from porn that real women don't even properly register for you. Maybe you've got sexual dysfunction or troubling fetishes. Eye contact probably feels awkward. Intimacy feels like work. Your arousal's wired to fantasy rather than reality. And that screws up your romantic life, preventing you from authentic connection with a woman, even if you really love her. On the social level, your connections are also impacted. You decline invites or fail to send them out. You avoid situations where you might have to show up as yourself. You become more isolated and disconnected. And when you do show up, you feel anxious or self-conscious, not fully present or your most authentic self. And then on the spiritual level, your connection to God and your morality feels off. You know, you're not showing up as the man you're meant to be. And many guys, we carry around this secret shame and feel haunted by this moral incongruence between what we say we believe is good versus what we're doing in private. And all of this has a massive impact on your relationship to yourself. After breaking so many promises to yourself, you stop trusting in your own intentions. You start to wonder if you'll ever get out of this. Your bigger aspirations and goals start to feel more like a fantasy. And deep down, you begin to question whether you even deserve to reach those goals in the first place. These are some of the common costs of porn use. And maybe not all of them apply to you, but some of them probably do. And these costs are not just about the wasted time and energy, although that's certainly significant, but it's also about the erosion of who you are when nobody's watching that attacks your core sense of self. So, ask yourself, what are the biggest costs of using porn for you? And don't just think about it for right now. Like, where will this lifestyle take you in a year, 5 years, 10 years? Think about it. Get specific. Do you like what you see? And chances are, probably not, right? And this is where most guys think, oh, well, now that I've seen this, I'm so committed to quitting porn. But the problem is that this is not the full picture. We must continue with this introspection if we want to ensure that we're not just signing up for another doomed attempt where our emotions back out when things get tough enough. Because you can't just use the stick of negative consequence to motivate change. You need to understand why you use porn in the first place and what you'd be losing by letting it go. Because like all coping mechanisms, porn serves a purpose. If it didn't, it wouldn't have its hooks in you. Okay. So first off, what is porn? Well, when you use it, okay, you're getting a narcotic level high on demand. One click and the world disappears, right? No rejection, no risk, no effort, just pure control. When life feels heavy, when you're lonely, you're bored, you're anxious, you're stressed, it's that guaranteed escape. You get to feel like someone else for a few minutes, powerful, desired, in charge. Okay, it's the ultimate get out of jail free card for discomfort. But every time you swipe the card, you're signing an invisible contract where you're saying, I'll trade a little more of my future peace for a few minutes of fake relief right now. And that deal, just like a real credit card, compounds debt like crazy. In the last video, we covered the 3 appetites of progress, pleasure, and purpose, and how porn allows us to access a fake and corrupted version of these things. Basically, porn fills a hole in your life. And when you're not addressing that hole, man, is porn useful because it takes all that pain away. So what are the big benefits that you are getting from porn? What are those gaps in your emotional desires that you're using porn to fill up? Okay? Acknowledge the role that it's playing. I'm not saying you need to like or admire it. Just get brutally honest with yourself about what it's actually doing for you. And here's a mistake I see guys make. Like, don't be too dismissive about what you find. Many guys are very quick to say, oh yeah, it gives me pleasure for a couple of minutes, but then it just ruins everything. It just totally sucks, okay? And this is, logically accurate. It's a very logical and sound response. But that's exactly what we're trying to avoid here, okay? We want the emotional buy-in, all right? So yes, obviously, the pleasure might be fleeting and come with huge downsides. Yet, those few minutes of relief clearly mean a hell of a lot to your emotional self. Otherwise, it would be easy to quit. So, here's the question here I want you to think about, all right? What kind of emotional deprivation are you allowing yourself to live in so that porn is viewed as such an essential lifeline to your critical emotionality? Okay? What are you doing? What's missing in your life? How serious is that your emotional self is just like, I need porn, all the time? When you take this question seriously, it holds a tremendous amount of power and insight. So at this point, we've covered the costs and benefits of using porn. Now we need to flip into the costs and benefits of quitting porn. Okay? And we're going to start with the costs of quitting, as we need to be equally honest about our price of freedom. So the first part of the cost is the physical side of things. When you quit, your brain and your body might throw a bit of a fit for a little while. You might feel irritable, restless, or foggy. You might even get physical withdrawal symptoms where your balls ache, your heart races, you have trouble sleeping, or maybe you've got to deal with wet dreams and those things suck. Obviously, you'll also have to face that raw, itchy craving of a brain that's looking for its fix. We all know that tense sort of feeling, okay? That's going to be something you're going to have to deal with. And realistically, these things are rarely that bad. Most never even touch a 4 out of 10 on the pain scale. And most of them will start fading, around 3 to 4 weeks clean. But the thing is, they're still uncomfortable, okay? And they have consequences in life. For example, say if you're a guy who uses porn to go to sleep every night. Are you willing to be tired for a few weeks while your sleep normalizes? Or will you say, oh, well, I have a presentation tomorrow and I need to be rested, so I have to use porn, okay? It's I can't tell you the number of times I've seen that rationalization, okay? Or are you willing to just, be like, all right, I'm just not going to be performing at my best for a little while, and some of that might suck. That's part of the costs of quitting, right? It's these kinds of things we need to be upfront with ourselves about. That way, our emotional self can't say, hey, I didn't sign up for this, right? We want to put it right on the table from the beginning. So that's the physical and chemical costs of quitting, but the real challenge for most guys occurs on the emotional level. You have to face the very things that porn was shielding you from. And typically this stuff comes up most intensely between, 3 and 6 weeks clean, where all the things that you've been repressing with porn start bubbling to the surface of your psyche. Maybe you're going to have to confront boredom, right? You realize, oh crap, I actually don't know how to have fun without porn. I don't know what I do with my evenings. Maybe it's stress. Maybe you're going to actually have to solve problems in your life instead of just numbing them out. Maybe you've got relationship problems or loneliness, all right? You're going to have to fix those things. You're going to have to build real connections or repair the ones that you have. Maybe you didn't realize, but you're constantly dealing with a chronic feeling of not being good enough, right? There's this sense of inadequacy that haunts you constantly, and you're going to need to learn how to confront these flaws and respond to them in a dignified manner rather than hiding from them. You might even find past wounds and worries coming up, things that you hadn't thought about in years, but that you never actually processed because you just used porn to turn them off. What I'm getting at here is that you may have to actually rebuild entire parts of your life. Like you might need to build a real productivity system that gives you wins worth earning. Maybe you need to build a social circle that recharges you. Maybe you got to fix a marriage or, build a dating life that feels alive. Maybe you need a sense of play and fun that doesn't depend on a screen. And yeah, this takes time and effort. And you can't do it all at once, okay? You're gonna have to get through the adaptation phase where you don't have that instant relief of porn in your back pocket. Every man who's ever transformed himself has paid this price. This is the cost of growth. It's the cost of quitting porn, okay? You need to build a life you don't want to escape from, and that takes sacrifice. But the question is whether you believe that cost is worth it. And in order to figure that out, we have to examine the final step of what you stand to gain. The benefits of quitting porn. So, what are those benefits? Well, let's imagine life on the other side of porn use, okay? So, you wake up before your alarm goes off. You're clear-headed, energized, excited to face the day. You feel powerful in your own skin again. You don't flinch when a woman walks by. You smile, grounded, confident. You finish the things that you start. You stop second-guessing yourself. There's a calm, steady pride that grows from doing what you know is right. Your brain, it's been reset. Your focus is sharp. Your motivation is high. You actually crave taking action and advancing towards your goals. You take control of your career, doing great work for great compensation. Your relationships deepen and expand. You connect, you laugh, you care, you have good times. Your spirituality, it ignites. You feel peace and connection when you pray. You feel part of something bigger and more meaningful. And your masculinity, it strengthens. You feel dangerous in, all the right ways. You're disciplined, you're driven, you're centered. And you don't need porn because you have real fun, real passion, and real peace in your life. You stop living at the mercy of your urges and become the kind of man that you're proud to be. Now, to be clear, this isn't the life that's merely free from porn. It's the life of a man who has replaced porn with a life he doesn't want to escape from. And that's the real benefit of getting clean, not just avoiding pain, but reclaiming your power. What do you stand to gain from quitting porn? What do you want that a porn-free life will help you with? Be specific as you can. Let yourself actually dream a little bit. Let yourself reconnect with that part of you that just wants something more. So, now that we've walked through the costs and benefits of both using porn and quitting it, we have one final big step to take. You must lay everything that we've covered on the table, and you need to ask yourself a question. What do I want? When I consider all the costs and benefits, which path do I want most? You want to ask this and answer this from your heart. Emotionally, do I feel the sacrifice is worth it? Don't try and micromanage this decision with logic. That's just signing up for a relapse down the road, okay? Look into your core and simply see which path your heart is pulling you toward. What kind of man do you want to be? Be brave enough to take that desire seriously and then follow it, because you're at a crossroads here. Path one is you just stay the same. Keep the easy comfort of porn, keep the screen, keep the quiet shame, let the moral relativism, nihilism, and desensitization rule, and let that vibrant flicker inside of you that wants something more fade away. Or you can take path two. You can walk into the fire. You can face yourself. You can rebuild. You can trade the cheap high for a real life that actually feels good. You can become holier, sharper, and more vibrant than ever. Now, you don't have to choose the second path of quitting porn, okay? Own that. Plenty of people don't choose this path. God still loves them, and their lives still have just as much value as anyone else's. Own that fact. Stop trying to trick yourself into thinking you have to do this. You don't. You've got a free choice, and it's your life to do with what you want. But if when you lay everything out, you decide that quitting porn is what you want, that you do ultimately want to be the kind of man who shows up to life without porn despite its costs, then own that desire It is yours. And I don't want you to see that version of you who lives porn-free as some far-off, disconnected person from who you are now, okay? Because I believe that your true self is the man that you most want to be. That is your true self. So if that's what you want, to live porn-free, then quitting isn't about becoming some other version of you, okay? It's about finally deciding to shed the things that aren't authentically you to begin with. When you move from this place, the fully informed desire you'll find naturally in your heart, that'll be the core seed of grace and power that will allow you to ultimately succeed in this transformation. It'll let you move not from guilt, not from fear, but from truth, okay? From a warm heart that simply wants more goodness in his life. And so when you come from this place, this is when you become unstoppable. So here's your mission right now, okay? I want you to go to markqueppet.com and go through the exercise for this lesson where I walk you through this buy-in process step by step, okay? We'll lay out the costs and benefits in black and white, look at them honestly, and make a decision. And when you do this right, yeah, you might feel a little fired up. However, we're not chasing some cheap motivational high here that's just going to get extinguished by any old gust of wind. Instead, what we're really looking for is to unlock the quiet, sober, stable, and totally clear conviction that you can feel in your bones, okay? The kind of conviction that will let you choose the right path over and over again. Buy-in, it's not about flash. It's about depth, okay? Like when I see guys come in, they want to quit porn, they're all fired up because they watch a bunch of motivational YouTube videos. I'm like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. But when I'm talking to a guy and I just see it in his eyes, he's calm voice, just like, yeah, it's time. I want to quit. Seriously. That's what I want to see. That's what I want you to try and find, okay? Yeah, embrace any kind of enthusiasm that you can find, but really it's about a surrender to your path, okay? True domination, like in life, means that you have to surrender to the goal, okay? It means that you just say yes to it all the way. So take this process seriously, my friends, because if you do, it's going to set such a powerful foundation for everything that comes next. I hope you got a ton out of this video. That's all I got for you in this one, but I really look forward to seeing you in the next lesson where we move into the next phase of our journey. Booyah.